Hello everybody and welcome to this edition of On the Record. I'm your host Adam D'Amico and today we will be discussing superstitions and sport. A superstition is a widely held unjustified belief in a supernatural causation leading to certain consequences of an action. It is a phenomenon that both pro and amateur athletes can relate to, whether or not it's a baseball player who avoids stepping on a baseline or a football player who has been wearing the same jockstrap since Pee-wee. Superstitions are an integral part of sport. In a moment, I'll introduce you to our expert panel, but for now, let's cue this up.
It's amazing how superstitious it is. I mean, you can look at the game clock, and game 1 to game 60, you can realize exactly what someone's going to be doing at the same time before every game.
I always try to go into the room at the same time before warm-up, like to get dressed.
I like to put on my gear at a certain time. I like to start with my left shin pad instead of my right one.
Put on the right skate first, always tie it first. And, you tape your stick the same way every time, or you put it in the same place when you come off the ice.
I've got so many. Once I tape my stick, I don't like anyone to touch it. After I tape it, I like to sit by my stall and don't like when guys pick it up.
The moment I get to the arena, I get out of my suit and have a shower and kind of get into my undergarments for the game. If I don't do that, it just feels off.
I like to eat at the exact same time. I like to eat the same thing, chicken and pasta every day.
After my pregame meal, I get back to the house, and me and my roommate Wayne Simmons, we always get in the game of NHL on Xbox.
I stretch in the same spot on the blue line and in warm-ups.
At the end of warm-ups, I'm always probably the last guy on the ice.
Mostly goalies actually have their superstition.
I always hit the wall going out to the ice. I hit it once before the first period. I hit it twice before the second, 3 times before the third period.
Before I get off the ice, I kind of do a little circle. You have to give yourself these little moments of things you can do to feel like you're in control, I think.
Superstitions, they can be detrimental or beneficial to an athlete's circumstances. In the video we just saw, Ryan Miller claims that superstitions help him feel in control. At this moment, I'd like to introduce sports psychologist Dr. Deborah Melamed, and I would like to know your thoughts on Ryan Miller's statement about feeling in control.
Actually, control is one reason that athletes feel they adopt their superstitions, but really the reason they adopt their superstitions is as a coping mechanism for the high amounts of pressure they feel that they're under. Attributing their success to a routine can actually lead to problems because this is an extrinsic attributional style, and extrinsic attributional styles are when an athlete looks to something outside of his own control as the cause of something that's happening, which is different from an intrinsic attributional style, which the athlete only has himself to look to. Athletes believe that their routines are performance enhancing, but really it's long-term practice and confidence.
Well, as a sports writer, I've seen many athletes who rely on superstitions to help them play better.
And I believe that superstitions are fine as long as they don't hinder the athlete's performance or the team's performance. If they can play better when they're doing this, then why judge them? Why fix something if it isn't broken? If they think they can get increased self-confidence, increased self-efficacy, and focus from that, then I'm all for it.
At this moment, I'd like to introduce another special guest. We know him as number 87, Sid the Kid. Let's welcome Sidney Crosby to the show. Sidney Crosby, in your NHL career, I'm sure you've seen your fair share amount of superstitions.
Oh yeah, definitely. And firstly, it's great to be back on the show. It's great to be back in Toronto. I've seen my fair share. I agree with Sharon. Mostly positive, and as long as it's not affecting the team, I don't see why superstitions are a problem. But maybe I've seen a couple negative over my years, but mostly all positive.
Well, actually, I can tell you from my own research that it's majority of the time that superstitions can lead to harm to group dynamics. On some team sports, all the athletes engage in the same ritual, but in other teams, it's one individual on the team that engages in his own ritual, and his other teammates, they don't understand why, and this can actually lead to problems such as exclusion, cliques, and poor social cohesion of the entire team.
That's a great point because we can easily see teams crumble when individual players have their own superstitions. For example, taking a look at the Ryder Cup, Tiger Woods had his own set of superstitions, and a team that was supposed to exceed actually did very poorly. Sid, I hear you have a few superstitions of your own?
I have a few things I like to do before the game. Nothing too weird. Only a couple things I like to do. Yeah.
Well, according to HBO 24/7, there, on the contrary, it shows that you have many superstitions. Let's take a look.
In Pittsburgh tonight, with the Phoenix Coyotes in town, the Pens are intent on snapping their 2-game losing streak. As always, the players arrive through the northwest entrance of the Consol Energy Center. Sidney Crosby, though, takes a different path than his teammates. A long and circuitous route designed specifically not to pass the visitors' locker room. For Crosby, riding a 20-game point streak, game days are filled with a series of very specific routines, like this one.
There's probably a few that are borderline crazy, but I guess we're all crazy in our own way. But you're not going to have any trouble finding me at a certain time before a game. It's the same every single game.
Sticks are taped just so. There's a 5 p.m. peanut butter and jelly sandwich with particular brands of each. Then comes a soccer kick-around, a hockey tradition a group of Penguins take part in.
That's so bad.
Stretches performed in a certain order. And then he puts on his lucky cup, the same one he's been wearing for years. Just before the team takes the ice, there's one more routine. A special handshake with the only player who skates out after him, Evgeny Malkin.
Really, Sid? The same jockstrap?
Hey, we won the Stanley Cup when I was wearing that jockstrap. I can't throw it out now.
No offense, Crosby, but that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. I'm all for
For superstitions as long as they don't affect the team's performance, but like you can eat all the peanut butter jelly sandwiches that you want. That doesn't affect anybody else. But when you're walking to the arena alone, that affects your team's performance and your team cohesiveness. So
obviously that's really not beneficial at all. Apparently you have other superstitions you can fall back onto anyways.
Well, in my coaching career, I've seen, I'm a tennis player, so a coach, obviously. So for me, it's an individual sport more than a team sport. So to me, superstition is pretty good because my athletes feel more confident and relaxed. And then, if their performance is not being affected, why would I care, right?
But doesn't it affect their performance? I mean, for example, let's say you had a tennis player that had a really good game one time and he was carrying a penny in his pocket that time and he attributed his good performance to that lucky penny and he always had to carry it on him afterwards. But then one day went missing. Wouldn't that psych him out and then ultimately his performance would not be good because of that penny?
Well, actually, I can tell you that when considering attributional style, 3 different concepts come into play, which is stability of circumstances, internal locus of control, and locus of cause. And when an athlete feels an internal locus of cause, he'll feel an increased pride upon a success. And when he feels that the circumstances surrounding his success, he'll feel increased expectancy of success in the future. And when feeling an internal locus of control, he'll feel more motivated to continue to participate and continue to play. So really, those are the 3 mindsets that an athlete needs to have an internal attributional style. So again, that's an internal locus of control, internal locus of cause, and stable circumstances. So when those 3 aren't met, the athlete is said to have an external locus of an external attributional style, and that can actually lead to some negative consequences.
Well, I completely understand where you come from. So like, I guess for the future I would have to be more cautious in allowing my athletes to have their own superstitions. But do you also think that it's still possible to have like their own superstitions and not other people getting hurt?
Hold that question, Nick. A word from our sponsors.
Hey, it's Vince Offa here with my new product called the Sticky. You're going to clean your home in a quickie when you use your Sticky.
Welcome back from break, everyone. Just before the break, Nick, you had a question for our sports writer?
Well, yeah. Is it still possible for superstitions to be beneficial for athletes and for others?
Definitely. I think each athlete needs to be assessed individually. Some superstitions are okay, but if the athlete attributes all their success to their superstition, then that's detrimental for them, because that ultimately leads to a loss of intrinsic motivation, which is what the athlete really needs.
Unfortunately, at this time, we have to wrap it up, so I'm going to ask you guys to have a concluding statement each.
Well, as we've discussed here today, it seems that a relationship definitely exists between success and superstitions, but the question is, in which direction does this relationship exist? And I can tell you it's actually a bi-directional relationship, so successes can lead to superstitions as well as superstitions leading to success. However, research shows that the relationship for success leading to superstitions is much stronger. And, regardless of the different arguments that could be made to support superstitions, in the end, there's always going to be the potential negative consequences for the athlete and his team.
Well, I have to say that my athletes feel more confident and relaxed when they participate in superstitious behavior. And so, why not, right, if it helps them out? So, well, but as for the future, I'll keep in mind that when I monitor my tennis player, I'll be watching for excessive external reliance on their part.
Yeah, I think today we've learned a few things, and the major thing to me is that superstitions are a coping mechanism, and they're a coping mechanism for extreme stress and anxiety that all athletes are put under. And when an athlete's anxious, they're going to tense up and narrow their focus, and then they're going to be more prone to injuries and poor performance. So, I'm not going to stop superstitions I'm already involved in, but I might be careful about the ones that could impact my teammates in a negative way.
As we've heard today, superstitions can affect athletes differently. It could either positively affect them or negatively affect them. The debate is therefore wide open, just like most topics in sports psychology. Therefore, there is no correct answer more than the other. So hopefully this edition of On the Record helped you open your eyes to the idea of superstitions and the concept. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.